Hello, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, also representing G&A Warburton's, our sister company in New Zealand. And speaking of New Zealand, we're going to a jeweller's, well, not so much a jeweller's workshop, but certainly a 3D technologist's workshop somewhere in Australasia, and we're going to Christchurch in New Zealand. So it's a first for us going to New Zealand. And I'd like to introduce Morne Mamlambo. Morne, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Just
That's
had my
great.
dinner, so feeling good.
Oh, excellent. It's great to have you on board. And I'm very excited about today because we're discussing 3D technology. So it's a first for us. And you've got a little bit of a background with your 3D printing and scanning. And just tell us a little about how that started, Morne.
Yeah, I kind of fell into it, really. So I'm into fossil hunting. So I really enjoy going out and finding fossils. And I found a really easy way to share it with people around the world was to make 3D models of them. And I just happened to work at a place where we did quite a bit of 3D modeling. So I had some experts I could ask questions. A few of them worked for Weta Workshop here in New Zealand. Those are the guys that did Lord of the Rings, all the special effects on those movies. So they were real experts in their field. So I could get quite a bit of knowledge in a short time just by asking them.
Yeah, well, speak of success in a short time, I'll share with our viewers that you've got quite a following on YouTube and Instagram. For example, one video on YouTube has got over 2 million views. You've got 340,000 subscribers. And on Instagram, you've got 160,000 followers.
Yeah,
so, and this is in
it's weird.
a niche market of
fossil hunting
fossils.
is strange.
Yeah.
A couple of my videos, you might have seen them. They went viral where I was finding these crab fossils and then removing the rock from them. And I did a time lapse, and recently I found a penguin. So I removed the rock from a penguin, and people also quite enjoyed that, especially on TikTok. It did really well on TikTok.
How many views did it get on TikTok?
Like 70 million or something like that.
Just 70 million. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well done. Okay, so today you've prepared a slideshow to talk to as we go through, and you've got some video to give people real insight into what you're getting up to. So will I leave it to you to share the screen then?
Let me do that. Okay, I'm sharing the screen now. So let me know if you can see the slideshow.
Yeah, we're seeing that. And just
Awesome.
While that's coming up, I'll just invite our viewers just to introduce themselves. Jesse's already done that, so good day, Jesse. And if any others would like to tell us your name and where you're from, that would be great. And please ask any questions along the way. I'm sure Morne would be happy to address those.
Yeah, I'm happy to be interrupted. I don't want to be droning on for like 30 minutes. So what I'm going to talk about today is 3D scanning and 3D printing. And Peter was telling me it's mostly people, in the jewelry industry that will be probably watching today. So I tried my best to keep it relevant and not talk about fossils too much. And you can see here on the front page of my presentation over here, those are some sample jewelry bits that have been 3D printed and are now ready to be casted. So just on the left over there, that's my YouTube channel. So if you look at the bottom right there, there's a prioritized fossil crab that I 3D scanned. And then once I 3D scan my models, or my fossils, I put them on Sketchfab. And I'll quickly show you what it looks like, because it's a lot more interesting putting it on the screen, because it's 3D. It does better with where you can move it. So this is on Sketchfab, and this is a fossil crab I found. And I spent about 200 hours removing the rock from it. So when I found it, you could only see the tips of the legs on the side here. And
Wow.
This was a 25 kilogram rock, so 50 pounds. And that took me 200 hours to remove all the rock. But
now, what tools were you using when you cleaned that?
I use an air scribe, which is like an engraver. So if you do, it's the same kind of, it's a pneumatic engraver. So they just have a slightly different tip to the ones you use for engraving on, trophies and things like that. But it's not a rotary tool, because a rotary tool will damage the fossil. You want something that's hitting it like a little jackhammer, because the rock doesn't actually attach very well to the crab fossil, so it wants to flake away. So if you get close enough to the fossil, it actually flakes away without you hitting the fossil with the air scribe.
Okay.
And this one, yeah, it's about a foot long or wide. It's 32 centimeters wide. So that's what I do with my fossils. And then this allows people to download it. So you can download this 3D model and then print it yourself. Because I don't send fossils out of the country, just keep them in the country or donate them to museums. This is a great way of sharing my fossils with people all over the world. So I've got a whole bunch of fossils that I found, and then people download the models and print it for themselves. And it
And do
prints
you
a
do
scale
that out
model.
of the generosity of your heart, or do you make any revenue out of that, or what?
Oh no, I don't make any money out of that. So it's I just like sharing it. It's a lot of schools do this, so across
Okay.
New Zealand. So instead of looking at international fossils, now they can look at local New Zealand fossils. And this is another cool fossil I found. That's a marlin skull. So it's missing the sword part of the swordfish, but
Yeah.
that's the eye over there.
Okay.
And this is how I found it. So to get back over here, that's basically what I do. So I find the fossils, I prep them, and then upload them, and then send them to the museum. And the scanner I use, I've got two scanners, 3D scanners, but I also use photogrammetry sometimes, that I'm not really going to talk about today because it's not really used in jewelry trade. But this little scanner on the left here, this is called the RevoPoint Mini, and it's a small 3D scanner. I don't have it right here with me, but it's tiny. It's about the size of a normal smartphone.
Okay.
And it's $900. So this is kind of your entry level 3D scanner. And this is what I used to do my little scanning, which I'll show you later. But because we're talking about jewelry, I scanned this little ring and created a larger copy of it. But this is the little scanner I used to do that. So this is kind of your entry level. But here on the right hand side, I just quickly pulled up what do jewelry makers use as 3D scanners. So you've got the much more accurate ones. So you can see 0.01 millimeters. This one is 0.2. So this one is like one order of magnitude more accurate than the one I've got. But you can see the price is looking at $14,000, $15,000. So this is definitely what you'll be using probably if you're doing this as part of your business. If you're just like me and you like experimenting, or maybe you just want to try this out, this is probably the one, or a similar type one that you would try start out with.
And Morne, what's the process to scan something? So what do you do?
I'll go to that. Well, let me show you the types of 3D printers before we get there. So once you've got your model, like I showed you over there, you can then print it out. And basically you've got your filament printers on the left hand here. You've got this big roll of filament at the top and it prints it out. That's the one I used. And then you've got these resin printers, which are a slightly newer technology, but it's quite toxic, but it gives really, really great results. And this is the one that I've seen people making jewelry use, mostly the resin. You get a lot better resolution, you get a lot better quality on this, and you can also print as many as you can fit on that plate. Basically you can print, and it prints it at the same time, whereas this one, the more object you've got on your plate, the longer it takes. Whereas this one, it takes the same amount of time just because of the way it's using it.
Okay, yeah. Just like to let our viewers know that AJS actually stocked the resin printer.
Yep. Oh, that's cool. I'll actually come look on your website because I'm looking for one.
Okay.
So here's my, I've got an FDM printer. I've got the one over here, which is kind of your entry level, your $400 printer, the Creality Ender 3. And I've just finished printing a mower. So this is a life-size mower that I finished printing. I've got the head behind me here, but that's the size of the head. So it's quite a big bird. I mean, these mowers were, what's that really terrible bird you've got there in Australia, the scary one, the cassowary?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, it's similar to that size. So I've finished printing that recently, and that's what these filament printers are good for. They're good for printing larger objects, where I find, but still it took me 500 hours to print that.
Wow. And where did
But
you
then,
did you have the scanned image already? Did you just
yes,
get that? Yeah.
so I got that from Auckland Museum. They sent me the models.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I'm busy actually doing the video now. So I've done the time lapse and I've done the putting it together video. So I'll be publishing that soon, hopefully this weekend, the whole process of printing that. But over here, I've got two sample images. So you can see on the left-hand side here, this is the filament printer. And you can see they've got all these layer lines. So that's each layer, it's putting down that little layer of plastic.
Yep.
But then if you look at the resin printer, it hasn't got that layering effect. So it gives you a lot better resolution.
No worries. Yeah, I'll just quickly interrupt, Morne, just to say good day to Damon, Jesse, Carl, and Kenrick, who have introduced themselves online. So thank you for being in attendance.
Hi, everyone. And this is just an example of how they've used those SLA printers. You've got your wax model, which is a special type of resin that you print. So you can do your lost cast method, where you create the cast, you pour your metal in, and it actually burns away the wax mold and leaves you with the finished product over there. So that's kind of how it's being used. And then if you look at the printers, you get the commercial level printers, a little bit more than my $300 printer, but you get what you pay for. My printer doesn't have this kind of resolution. Mine is, the layer height is 0.12 rather than 0.025. This one's
Right.
10 times better resolution.
Yeah.
And also the speed will be completely different. And this is one of the castable resins. You might stock, I don't know, your own castable resins, but this is the one that I could find online that people are using. There's probably other ones, but this is the one that I could find. And you see where it's 100% ash free. So when you pour in your metal into the mold and it burns away this resin, it doesn't leave ash and all sorts of things in there. But you were talking about what's the process for scanning this. So let's get into that. Here I've got a little silver ring, and if I'll hold it up to the camera so you can see it's a tiny ring. And I actually found this with my metal detector in a local park. So some old silver ring 925 sterling silver ring, and it's got a nice intricate pattern at the top here with flowers and little leaves. And I thought this would be a good one to try scanning. So the first thing I did is I actually spray painted it white because the scanner doesn't like reflective surfaces. So you'll see the one I'm holding up, it's quite white. Okay. And I can just remove that with acetone afterwards. So got a video here. Let me show you the video. So this is my 3D scan in action. And you see I've sped it up 3 times. But what it's doing, it's got this blue light that's doing the scanning, and then I've got it on this turntable, and the turntable is quite clever. You'll see it automatically tilts. So it pauses, and now it's going to tilt. It's doing its thing.
And the turntable comes with the scanner?
Yeah, so it comes with the scanner. I think you might have to pay extra for it, but this is the scanner is connected to the turntable, and it tells it when to tilt. Okay. And you can tell it it can tilt 5 degrees, 10 degrees, whatever you think is going to work best. And that's just so that it can get into all the little nooks and crannies, especially with a ring like this, where it's got all those textures to it. And
it's very intricate.
Yeah, it's quite an intricate one. I went for a difficult one. I should have gone for something easier. Because this is quite a difficult one to scan. Some of the reasons I would think you would scan something like this is if you've got a one-of-a-kind ring and you want to make a whole bunch of copies. So you might do a method where you've got, where you're creating the ring using a manual method rather than doing it on the computer. So, I'm not sure what the methods are where you're actually creating the cast and doing it like that. Or in this case, I wanted to make a larger version of this ring. So maybe you've got a ring, a very small ring, and you want to resize it to another size or to a bangle, or just get the design and do other things with it. That's kind of the reasons why you would scan it in. Otherwise, you would just buy some cool designs online, because it's a lot quicker just to buy the designs on a place like Sketchfab. So once I've scanned it in, the software does a whole bunch of cool things, and then I bring it into Blender. Now, Blender is a free program, and this is kind of, you can use this to create movies and all sorts of things, but this is now a 3D image, a mesh. And if you look in here, you can see it's brought in the flowers, but my resolution is not as good as some of those commercial ones. So you'd want the one that's 0.01 millimeters accuracy rather than mine. But you can still see it, it's flowers. It's got the design over there. At the bottom there, at the bottom there, there's one of my other scanned attempts. So I scanned it twice, and this one was the one that came out best. And you can see the blue tack that I actually used to hold it down is down there at the bottom. And it's quite nice, this program. So if I just select that model, I can go into the sculpt mode, and you can actually go and you can smooth out blemishes.
Oh, okay.
So you can do all sorts of cool things, and I can just say, oh, let's squeeze that blue tack down before I print it. So you can spend a lot of time or very little time, like myself. I'm not an expert at this program. I know enough to get into trouble, but that's about it. And then once you're happy with it, you just export this as a STL file, which is a file format for meshes. And then you bring it into your 3D printer program. This is called Cura, Ultimaker Cura. And you can then resize it to whatever size you want. So I can just say, that's the move. Let's go to the sizing. And it gives you, that's now, what's the X? 7.7 centimeters. That's still too big. So I can bring it down to the size I want. And then that will print it out for me. Like I say, I've got a cheaper printer. I don't have the really fancy ones, but I did a time-lapse once.
And this is 2 hours worth, is that right?
Yeah, so this took 2 hours. I'll start at the beginning, but this took 2 hours. But, I don't want you to sit here for 2 hours while it prints, but I've got a DSLR, so I've just got a camera on this side, and it takes a photo every so often, and then I just stitch it together. And so that the thing in the middle there, I'll just pause it. You see the structure in the middle?
Yeah.
That's just what you call a support, because the printer can't print in the air. So at the top there, it needs to print this little support, and you just pop that support out afterwards. It's just very loose.
Is that mainly full of air itself, that support?
Yeah,
or?
it's very flimsy. It's not like the rest of the print. So you can see I've just popped it out. And there.
And that's a fair size ring you ended up with.
Yeah, I probably made it a little bit too big. But I wanted to show, that it gives you a really nice size. We've gone through that. So it generates G-code. And what G-code is basically telling the printer, move to your X-axis to over here, move your Y-axis to over here, put down this much filament. And it's just hundreds of thousands of lines of all these instructions to the printer. Luckily, you don't have to do it yourself. You've got a program that just tells it what to do. And we showed you the print, and that's the end result. You can see I've got some layering because I've got a filament printer. So I've got the layers coming through over there on the right-hand side.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's the original one that I spray painted that I have to go clean up now.
Great job.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I thought, you could do with 3D printing.
I'll invite our viewers there if they've got any questions or comments, or if they've had a play with 3D printing, please let us know your experience or your questions or
other
your comments.
uses for it. I couldn't really think of many uses, but I'm not a jeweler, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, well,
know
I think
exactly.
Just exposing people to the technology might just get them thinking themselves about how they could use this, because if you can create a template that you can then use to create other pieces, you might save yourself a lot of time and money in the future.
Yeah, and like I say, you can also download these ring templates from all over the place, or you can have your own ones done. And if I just go back to that slideshow, to that first picture, so you see how they're all just in a row. So it will take the same amount of time to print all, let's call it 10 of these, as it would to print one of those, because you're using a resin printer, and the resin printer prints it. That's why you stack them in a resin printer. You try and get as many as possible in there. Though this might have been a filament printer, but if it's a resin printer, you can print, 10 or 20 rings at the same time. It will take you about 3-4 hours, and then you just pop those in. What's that kind of cement that you use to create your molds? And then afterwards, you just crack it open. I forget what it's called, but I've seen it on your website. The molding stuff. So it's like plaster of Paris, but it's not quite plaster of Paris.
Those watching will know for sure. Yep. So Damien's got a comment. I could have used that 3D scanner about 6 months ago. Investment is what we're looking for. Well done. Thank you for that, Damien. And Carl says, a wonderful insight. Thank you. So pleasure, Carl. Yeah. So unless there's any other comments or questions, we'll wrap it up there. Did you want to show anything else there, Morne? Any other show and tells?
No, what have I got here? I'll show you what the mower model looks like, the one that Auckland sent me.
Okay.
Auckland Museum. It's a pretty fun one, and this is kind of how you can start working around in Blender. So if you look at that, that's I'll just move it over onto this one. So there's a complete mower, and they just sent me this as a 3D file, and then I just extract each of these bones and then put it in my printer. And the next morning, you've got a new bone to stick together.
And then how do you stick the bones together?
I was just using a hot glue gun.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't click into place.
No, because this mower is from 4 separate birds, because they don't have all the bones from each mower. So they had to piece it together. So they don't fit exactly. So you kind of have to make them fit a little bit.
Yeah.
But thanks so much, Peter. That was fun chatting to you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Morne. You did a great job, and we got some lovely kudos from our viewers. So thank you very much to our viewers, both now and in the future. I'm sure they'll be very interested to see this in the future as well. So
if you're watching it in the future, go look at that mower 3D print I've just finished, hopefully.
Indeed, that'll have gone ballistic. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Morne, and we'll hopefully look forward to seeing you another time.
Pleasure, Peter. See you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.